All right, well, I just finished racing the California International Marathon down in Sacramento, California yesterday, which was December 8th, 2019. And rather than doing a long form written blog to talk about the race, how it went, what I would do differently, what I learned, I thought it'd be good for my record and anyone who's interested in hearing more about the race to actually do a YouTube video. So I wanted to start off by talking about some of the race logistics, my plan for the race, talking about how the race itself went from an execution standpoint. And then I thought I'd finish by talking about some learnings as well as some things I do differently the next time I go to race a marathon. But I'll start off by sharing that the goal for the race was to break 3 hours, which would qualify for me for the Boston Marathon. That doesn't necessarily mean that I get into the race. That means that I qualify with the standard of breaking 3 hours. And mission was certainly accomplished. I ran 2:58:57, which I'm really excited about. But let's jump in to talk about the race and how it went. So the logistics for the race were really cool. The thing that I was really excited about was the course profile itself, but was really excited about racing a point-to-point race. So many times with marathons or Ironmans like I've raced before, you're doing a looped course, maybe an out and back course, and it can create some monotony in terms of the course being a little bit less inspiring or less kind of mentally stimulating. And I love the fact that CIM is a point-to-point race. It starts out in Folsom, which is about 25 miles. I think it's around northwest of Sacramento, and then it finishes in the heart of the city with a sprint finish towards the Capitol. And so we stayed right downtown at the Citizen Hotel, which is an autograph collection by Marriott, and we had an amazing experience. We found some great meals, had a couple nice restaurants to visit and really kind of carve up and relax leading into the race. But then we were also really fortunate to be staying just a block away from the race shuttle, which made race morning really easy. So my alarm went off at 4:15 in the morning on Sunday, and I had some store-bought oatmeal so I just used the Keurig machine to make some hot water and had some oatmeal. Had a cup of coffee, got ready as quickly as I could, and then I had to catch the shuttle at 5 a.m. So got out there at about 4:45 with a big line of people, but the logistics were phenomenal. It was just a couple minutes to get onto the actual shuttle. And once I got on the shuttle, I enjoyed my bagel, my banana, my nut butter, and it was about a 45-minute drive out to the race. But they had us out there by about 5:45, maybe 6 a.m. They'd called for rain and wind, but neither of those were present at the race start, which was awesome. So one of the things that CIM kind of brags about is that they have a really, really nice ratio of porta potties to runners. So if you're a runner or an endurance athlete, you can probably relate that the importance of going to the bathroom on race morning and the stress around that can be a lot. So having so many porta potties was just super cool. So took my time going to the bathroom, got a nice warm up in, bumped into some friends and some other kind of YouTube people or Instagrammers that I know. And then was able to get myself seated into the corral. They self-seed you based on your goal time. So they had a sub 3:05 section, and I just slotted myself in with the 3-hour pace group and kind of managed the race day nerves as good as I could, tossed all of the gear I wasn't going to be wearing, which they then donate to Goodwill, and then got myself ready for the gun to go off. So before I talk about the actual race, I had a pretty specific plan. So knowing that I wanted to break 3 hours and knowing that I'd trained in a specific way with specific nutrition, there were a couple things that I was super set on doing from an execution standpoint. So my goal was to run an even split based on terrain through maybe mile 15 to 20 and then kind of turn it up if my body would allow me to. And with that said, I was really set on running through the half marathon point no faster than about 1:29:30, just to make sure that I was saving, my legs for that back half of the race, which is really when the race begins. From a nutrition standpoint, I trained with the course nutrition from an electrolyte standpoint. So that's done by a company called Noon. And so they did Noon Endurance Citrus Mango was the flavor. And so I planned to take in electrolyte from the race, which was great and worked out really well. And my plan was to take electrolyte every 2 to 3 miles, just about a half cup, and then to follow it up with water. And then as always with endurance, take water when you feel like you need it, but never let yourself get parched. From a caloric standpoint, my goal and plan was to have 5 gels with me, so I'm really loyal to GU. I like their product, it's always worked well, and I've been on their team in the past. And so I took the GU gels every 30 minutes, so not about mileage, but just every 30 minutes. And my 5th and final gel was a Roctane gel, which gave me about 70 milligrams of caffeine, so about a cup of coffee. And the plan there is rather than running into that wall that runners talk about, take that gel with that caffeine kick and use that as an opportunity to really press the gas and have a really strong finish. And so that was really the plan from an execution standpoint. So that last 30 minutes of my legs felt like they had some energy left in them, or if my head felt like I could really fight, that I would turn it on and really try to have a fast finish for a negative split. So the gun went off at 7 a.m. and race day magic was alive and well. The one thing that I should mention right out of the bat is that there was an amazing pace group for the 3-hour marathon group. And I can't talk about the other times. I believe it was every 15 minutes from 2:45 up to 4 hours they had pacers. But there were 2 awesome pacers pacing a humongous group of us who were all chasing that sub-3 time. And I was super fortunate to be right in the middle of that pack. So the gun went off and I was with the sub-3 hour group, and they did such a good job of pacing us evenly based on the terrain. So we'd run a little bit faster if we were going on a downhill section, and they would definitely have us slow down if we were going uphill. And it was just such a nice way to be able to turn the mind off and just focus on executing the plan. So taking those gels every 30 minutes, making sure I stayed hydrated and never got parched, and then getting enough electrolyte in so that sodium and cramping was never an issue. But the awesome thing about the marathon is that for the first probably 2 hours or so, it just felt easy. So that's the goal with any Ironman or marathon long endurance event, is that you've done the hard work and the training, you're tapered, and I certainly felt that. So through the 13.1 mile mark, which was half, it just felt like clockwork, and it was no issue holding pace. And it wasn't till about mile 20 or 22, as I saw other people starting to fade, that I really realized that I did have some energy left in the tank. So at 2 hours and 30 minutes, I had gone through every gel. My last one was the caffeinated gel made by GU. It's their Roctane product. And so I took that gel with about a shot worth of caffeine. I actually had just seen my wife April for the last time before the finish. And between those couple factors, my mind kind of turned on, and you crest over this little bridge. It's the last real climb of the race. And it was right then around mile 22 that I decided to press. And so that's really what brought about the negative split that I ran. So those last 4 miles, I averaged about 6:35 to 6:40 pace. And as soon as I made a couple of those final corners, it was awesome because I'd driven the race course just the day before. And so I knew where I was in relation to the finish line, not just what my GPS was telling me. But 22 to 26 was just super fun because I saw that I had some energy left in the tank. I was able to finish strong, run a negative split, and to break that 3-hour barrier. So I will say that crossing the finish line was just totally emotional, a combination of all the gratitude I felt for family, especially my wife who'd supported me, as well as just all the hard work that my body had been able to absorb. I never got injured, all those kinds of things, but this is a lifelong goal. So now it becomes all about really understanding what the next goal can be, but I was thrilled to cross the line and break that 3-hour mark. So to kind of close things up, looking back in hindsight, I definitely could have run a faster time, I believe, if I'd gone a little bit more aggressive from the beginning. But my goal was to break 3 hours. It wasn't to run 250 or 255, and I did that. I broke 259 with that 258.57 time. I think looking back on it, I did a really good job with nutrition, so sticking to that plan of every 30 minutes and pressing in a pretty low risk scenario, which was the last 4 miles. I already was kind of well under the time at that point, but seeing and feeling that I had that extra energy to give, I definitely believe that based on my training and my endurance background and all of the aerobic, that I've built up over the last 9 years, that I probably could have run a bit of a stronger first half to set myself up for even a faster time. But that's what my next marathon will be about. It'll be all about, breaking personal bests and going for faster times. So in hindsight, that's probably the only thing that I'm not regretting, but kind of thinking about is, I probably could have run a little bit faster, but the goal is to break 3. I did it. Thanks to everyone for cheering, for all the comments on social, all the texts and phone calls. It was a huge life accomplishment, and I'm really excited to see what's next. So thanks for tuning in.